Grace and Doc.
Welcome to Dvar Leah Torah class. This week is the week of Yud Beis Tammuz, which is the 12th day of the Hebrew month of Tammuz, which is we're celebrating the redemption of the previous Chabad Rebbe. There were back in 1927, which means we're 99 years ago. We're entering the 100th year of the liberation of the previous Chabad Rebbe, the Rebbe Yosef Yitzchak, his name was, and as we know the story in Russia, they had the revolution over there, and they came and they decided the government or the Jewish people in the government, unfortunately, decided that they want to get rid of Judaism. They wanted to destroy Judaism. And as everyone knows, that if you want to destroy Judaism, the way to do it is to get rid of education. Because the older people die out, don't live for, and the new generation, the youngsters, they continue. Now, if you don't let them teach the children Torah, so the Torah has no continuation. And that was their plan. They were not smart people, not stupid. And if an older fellow studies Torah and goes to shul, they didn't really bother them so much. What really bothered them was when they giving education to the children, and that they worked everything they can to destroy any sort of education of Judaism. And they did other terrible things too. They want to destroy the mikvahs and close the mikvah, do many other things that to stop the practice of Judaism. But their main focus was education. And the previous Rebbe fought like you can't even imagine against the Russian government. One man against the entire USSR, the powerful, almost the superpower of the world, powerful country with, and one man to fight against that was. And he sent out teachers, and he sent out to find children, teach them Torah, and when they caught a teacher and sent to Siberia, and even many of them were executed, he sent another teacher to continue the work, and he was literally fighting the government, and he was very open and very vocal about it. And the story, I mean, it's many stories, but one of the stories is that was back in 1927, a few months earlier, they in that winter Purim, which was just after the winter that time, and he was traveling to Moscow, and and he and and people told him, they're following you, the government, the KGB are following you wherever you're doing. You better be careful. And he said he wasn't intimidated. I said, I want to say a Maimah, a Hasidic discourse in the big shul, and everyone should know about it. Nothing to hide. He's not going to be not afraid at all, not intimidated in any way. And he went and said a mimer, and he knew over there was these spies and fought from unfortunately, many Jews were involved in this, in the Jews against Jews, and and he spoke very, very strong words about you have to care about the government, and you have to and you send your children to a Jewish education, and even means you put your life in danger. And he was on and on and on, and he spoke very, very, very emotional. And these are one of the main things that got him still so angry at him that they got him. They arrested him. Finally, they arrested him. And this was back in 1927. I guess 3 weeks earlier, the eve of the 15th of Sivan, I guess June, July, I guess February, March, May or June of 1927. I'm not sure the secular date, but the Hebrew date was the 15th of Sivan, 1927. And they arrested him. They came middle of the night. That's what they used to do to scare people. They come midnight to like almost 12 o'clock at night, and they come to his house, and they were searched around his house, and they took him to prison. When he was there was one, they took him basically the plan was to execute him on the spot. That was their plan. Miraculously, when he was in the prison, the name of that prison was called Spelerna, which was in Leningrad that time, and that's what the name of the city was that time. It might be Petersburg today. I'm not sure. Our Russian friends can tell us, correct me.
That's right, Rebbe.
It's correct.
Right.
Yeah. That time it was called Leningrad.
Yes.
And when they took him there, they told him to go down a certain hallway in this prison. And the hallways are very frightening, very scary. They try to intimidate the prisoners. And there's these guards, very little on the hallway, very tall with guns, and the hallway was very dark and very, very intimidating, very scary. And he wasn't sure, where he was going. He went and he went by the wrong hallway. Nothing's a mistake, really. Everything's divine providence. And he went down this hallway, and hey, it's very light. It's very bright. Now, the tall thing, they came to his house, and they're searching through his house. They came at midnight, and they were searching us for a few hours. And the time we got to the prison was, again, in the middle of maybe 3 or 4 in the morning. And, I don't know exactly, but pretty late. It went through the night. And the order was that when she go to this room where we went down the hallway, there was a guy ready with a gun, ready to shoot him on the spot. What happened was he went down the wrong hallway. He got a little it wasn't by mistake. Divine providence, this is what happened. And he sat down on the bench and he says, light, hey, this hallway is light. What's going on here? I'm no rush. Let me sit down. Let me rethink myself what I'm going to do, and etc. He sat down on the bench on the one, and he rethought his plans. What am I going to do? And he decided, I'm going to not give any consideration to the guard in this prison, and I'm going to consider them as if they don't exist. I'm not going to give them any recognition whatsoever. No, and that was a strong decision that he made. Anyway, after he went on the hallway, he got out, and then it was really morning. The orders was to shoot him that night. And when you have an order, it has to be done. After that, once the night was over, then the guy who was supposed to shoot him, then it was over. The time was that night. That it was over. He didn't realize that saved his life. But anyway, he was there for a couple of weeks.
Rebbe, I'm sorry for correcting you.
Yes.
In the June in Leningrad, so-called white night, the sun doesn't go below horizon.
Okay.
So throughout night, the people walk through. I used to walk through like in the middle of night, and it's light like a day.
Really?
Absolutely. That's remember, it's much north.
North, yeah.
Yes. In Arbor at the latitude of Black Sea Resort. Leningrad is north, far north.
So that's there's no time that's night?
No, sir. Not in June. In
Maybe June. It was May. I don't know the date. Around that.
No, so this Spalerna prison.
Yeah.
Right? The problem is it was not window on some hallways. That's why it was dark. Not because of the night.
Right. Okay.
Right. And he described pretty much he was tortured by Jews.
Unfortunately,
right. It's
anyway.
Not only people who tried to arrest him and cancel Judaism in Russia. The people actually agent of KGB were Jews, if he described it in his book.
Unfortunately. All right, so let's get what I'm trying to say here. Okay, so basically, when he was there, so he got there the 15th of the month of Sivan, and he was there for I guess like a week and a half or so. Yeah, just over 2 weeks. Now, almost 2 weeks. Yeah, just over day after over 2 weeks. Yeah. What happened was it was Thursday, Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, and when Thursday, that day, which was that year, Rosh Chodesh Tammuz was a Thursday, they came to him in the room 11 o'clock in the morning. Now, as Lev just mentioned, they didn't know in this room. You didn't know it was day and night. You didn't know there's no watches. How would you know what time it is? The only way you can know the time was because people will bring, when they brought the guards will bring food and or water or warm water, whatever it was. That's how you knew if it was day or night or whatever. That's how you knew the times. I mean, now as I just mentioned earlier, he decided he's not gonna consider them, give them any recognition at all. And when they investigated him, asked him questions, they didn't want to answer. They took him and they put him actually in a room of half of was it mud, and there was nowhere to lean. That was half the height of he was stuck in a piece of in mud, and there was mice and there was all these things crawling and all these bugs crawling around his room, and they put him for 24 hours as a punishment. He should, give in and listen to what they tell him. But he didn't bend. After 24 hours, he still came out strong, and he's not going to be intimidated by them. Anyway, the story also goes that when they took him to prison before he left, he said, "Would I be able to put on film?" In Tammuz, would I be able to daven? They said, "Yeah, sure." And when they came to prison, he said, "Can I daven?" And they said, "Can I have my film?" They said, "No way, you cannot daven. Forget about that. Forget about that prayers. Give it up. Forget about all these things." He said, "Oh, you promised me my film," and they refused, and they wanted to let him put it on. And as he was following one of the guards going through their upstairs and downstairs, he decided he's going to put it on while he's walking. And then the guard in the prison noticed him putting on film, gave him a push and went flying down a whole flight of stairs. And his belt that he was wearing on his waist went into his stomach and he started bleeding. He was very hurt from that. And anyway, then they took away his film. And he said, "If you take it away from me, I'm not eating. I'm a hunger strike." And for 2 days, so early Wednesday morning, he put it on film, and they threw it and pushed him downstairs for that. And then they took it away from him, and he didn't have it Thursday and Friday. They gave it back to him, but he didn't eat the whole Thursday. And Wednesday too. He said, "I'm not eating until he gave me my film." Anyway, so this is when he was sent to prison. During the time came Thursday, Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, which is 2 weeks later, and they came to him 11 o'clock in the morning. And they said, now the way in prison, the way it was, that if when you give the prisoner any information, the prisoner has to stand up. What's the idea of standing? The idea of standing is to show that you're submitting yourself to the prison. You are under the authority of the prison. And the previous Rebbe, decided he made this strong decision that he's not going to give them any recognition at all. So he's not going to stand up. So they told him to stand up. Now, he was so determined and so strong in his decision that he understood Russian. He can speak Russian, but he decided he's not going to speak Russian. He can speak in Yiddish. So they spoke to him in Russian to stand up, and he says in Yiddish, "Ich will dich nicht aufstellen. I'm not going to stand up." One of the guards was Jewish, understood Yiddish, and said to him, "If you don't stand up, we'll hit you. We'll hurt you. We'll beat you. We'll beat you." I guess that's the right good translation. And he said, "No, okay." And they beat him. And they left. Then the second group came in. A little while later, a second group of guards came in. The second group of guards, they told him, "Stand up." And he said, "Yiddish, I'm not going to stand up." Now, one of the people, actually, one of the guards who came in, his name was Lulav. Who was this Lulav? Lulav came from a Hasidic family. His grandfather was a fellow of the Chabad, of the fourth Chabad Rebbe. Many of these people who became Jews, who became communists, came from very well observant families. Unfortunately, they fell into this communist trap or this communist ideals, and they left Judaism. But they came from Hasidic homes, his grandfather was a Chassid Marash, a fourth Chabad Rebbe, and he said that his grandfather will carry the bags. This Lulav, this god Lulav, who turned into be this terrible monster, came from a grandfather will carry the fourth Rebbe of Chabad, Rebbe Marash's bags when Rebbe Marash would travel. He came from, and then one of the other guards who wrestled the previous Rebbe was Nachmanson, also came from a Chabad family, but they turned anyway. They fell this influenced by the this communist ideas. Anyway, so this Lulav came in and he spoke to Rebbe in Yiddish, Rebbe in Yiddish, and he says, "Was?" He said to Rebbe, he says, "Rebbe, was fehlt sich mit? Why are you bothering? Why are you arguing with them? Was macht sie machzakas? Why are you making it so difficult? They ask you to stand. They want to make it easier for you. They want to make. He said in Yiddish. They say to stand. Rebbe did not answer. So Lulav continued and says, they're going to hit you. They're going to beat you. The previous Rebbe did not answer, and they actually beat him. Now, one of them gave a clap, a blow under his cheek, under his chin, and it hurt the previous Rebbe for a long time afterwards. But the previous Rebbe was strong, and he didn't stand up. Then a third group of guards came in the third time, and among them was one of the guards was a Jew, and his name was Kavaliov, and he said, "Stand up." And the Rebbe said, "I'm not going to stand up." And they beat him up again. And this Kavaliov beat him, but nothing helped. Kavaliov got really angry, and he says in Russian, "Mi tiabe na utish no na utshim." That means we'll teach you. And then the previous Rebbe responds, depends who will teach who. Who will teach who? They left. A fourth time, a little while later, a fourth group came, and they said, "Go to the office." Okay. He goes to the office, and he goes there, and he saw on the table his basically the list, his file, and it had 3 lines there. The first line said, while the previous Rebbe was alive, he didn't say what it was, but what really was death. That was the first. That was the original. Psak, the original plan, or then it was changed, and it was for 10 years in Castroma. 10 years in labor camp in Siberia, which is hard labor. Everyone knows Siberia is so cold, and hard labor in Siberia, which is almost very difficult to survive. That many people just die, just go in, don't even come out back alive. And then that was crossed out, said "niet," which means no. And then the third line said 3 years in Kostroma, which was a far place, exile. It means you can't live in the center town of Leningrad, Pittsburgh anymore. But far away, that plan was you should spirit Torah. Now, it's just worth to mention about all this, what was going on over here, was that while he was in prison, it was the Chassidim didn't know what can they do to help him. How should they have any contact with people out of the country. Now, everyone knows in Russia, if you have communication with people out of Russia, you can, that alone is a federal offense. You can be thrown to prison for that. But they did it. And they managed to, information many Jews around the world found out the previous Rebbe was in prison in the United States, and then in Riga, Latvia, and other countries. And they put a lot of pressure on the Russian government to release the previous Rebbe. Now, it wasn't. I mean, they could have shot him, before they even all this information came, or all the pressure came. But miraculously, beyond miracles, they agreed to release him. What happened? Really, what was a miracle? One of the great miracles was that that time, Riga, Latvia had a government, and they wanted. They wanted some business deal with Russia, and the government was 50-50. I think 100 people in the parliament or something like that, and it was 50 and 50-50. One of the people in the government was a Jew, actually a Chabad Chassid. His name was what's his name again? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Dubov.
Sorry?
Dubov.
No. Not Dubov. No. Slipped out my mind. Dubin. His name was Dubin. And he found out, and he said said that I'm not going to vote in favor of this deal unless you release the previous Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, unless you release the Rebbe from prison. So the Russian government wanted this deal with Latvia, and the only way they can get that deal across was they're waiting for his vote. And he said, I'm not going to vote in favor of this deal unless you release the Rebbe from prison. And God made it that way, that happened to be 50, and he was the deciding vote. And because they said, okay, they'll release him from prison, he voted in favor of that deal. So that's one of the things that got the previous Rebbe out of prison. But anyway, so back to what we're saying. So Thursday, they said to him, you can go, you're permitted to go home for 6 hours with your family, and then you need to take a train, and you're going to go to Kostroma. And they said, what type of train are you going to take? And he said, there's first class, there's second class, economy class, whatever. I'm taking the highest class, which only high Russian officials take, or very wealthy people go on this highest. He said, could you afford it? He says, yeah. Well, when I went to prison, you took away my money from all the money I had. If that was not enough money to pay for it, then I'll have money at home, and I'll pay for that the ticket. I guess doesn't say that here in the talk, but I guess the priest wanted to show that I'm not going to give in, intimidated by you, and I'm not going to go as a criminal. I'm going to go like the most important people in Russia, Anyway, he said, fine. Then he asked them, when would I arrive in Kostroma? Well, leave Thursday night. It's so far away. Take more than a day travel, more than 24-hour travel, and you're going to get there on Shabbos. Oh, he said, if that's the case, I'm not leaving prison. I'm not leaving. I'm not going to desecrate Shabbos. And thank God, Baruch Hashem, he said, I didn't desecrate Shabbos, and he left prison on Sunday. This is basically the story. So this story needs what lesson can we learn from this story? So the previous Rebbe, the previous had this determination not to give in, and what happened was he was successful. He was able to overcome the Russian powerful government. He overcame it. That teaches us a lesson. Our Rebbe tells us that if we're determined to keep Judaism, nothing will be able to stop you. The person has a strong resolution, and he decides that I'm going to keep the Torah ways, and I'm going to do what God wants from me. I'm going to keep live. Then nothing will be able to and will stop you. And here, what we see from this story, that this guy Lulav, who was unfortunately fell so low, right? He fell so low in tumah, in uncleanliness, spiritually speaking. Even had effect on him that he called him Rebbe. He had a respect, and he called awaken up his inner feeling as a soul. Every Jew, whoever low he falls, he's always a Jew, no matter what. And awaken that the spark of Judaism within him, and called him Rebbe. Right? So that's a fact that we can accomplish when if we stand strong on our resolution. Now, you think this is another miracle people don't even realize. When someone goes to prison, they take you into prison against your will. And when the time's to release, you're out against your will. This doesn't exist. I'm going to stay longer. When if the prison releases someone, you have to get out on the spot. Out is out. I mean, talking recently when this, you probably heard of Shalom Cherubashkin, when he was in the prison in the United States, and it was the last day of Hanukkah, and he was eating his meal, some tuna fish or something, and they called him out, and he said, "Get out, just get out of here." The president Trump signed him. He released him from prison, and he said, "I have to go back in. I need to make I have to go back to my prison room, to my cell, to make the after blessing." They thought he was off the wall. What are you doing? Get out of here! Once you're released, you're out. And here he stayed a whole 3 extra days in the prison. So that teaches us that when we're strong, and we're determined to keep the way, nothing will be able to stop you. And this continues further when after came out of prison, that whole summer, the previous I was in great danger. I mean, physically he was out of prison, but they could have imprisoned him again. He was in great danger. And then they thought it's better to get him out of Russia. And actually, the Russian government was also happy to get rid of him. And the previous Rebbe felt that it's more that he will be able to affect more out of Russia than in Russia, to keep Judaism going. And that's what he continued doing. He strengthened Judaism in Russia while he was out of Russia. And now, so what happened? Oh, so he said, "I'm taking out all my books with me, and my certain writings of the Rabbim, of his books, and the manuscripts from the previous Rebbes." And everyone knows in Russia, they don't like you to take anything out of the government. They have that. They think everything belongs to the government. There's no privately owned anything. So he said to him, "You can't take it out of the country. You have to leave it here." And he said, "If you don't let me take out my books, manuscripts, I'm staying here. I'm not leaving the country." And they sent and then they sent a message to Moscow that Rebbe Schneerson doesn't want to leave the country without his books. And they said, "Okay, let him take everything. Give whatever he wants, let him take it with him." And that's what he did. And then he left the country. They stamped it, approval, and he took everything that he wanted to take out of the country with him. So here we learn the son is determined to keep the way of Judaism. Nothing will stop you. This Shabbos, actually, we're celebrating the 12th of Tammuz, the release of the previous Rebbe, and his determination to keep Judaism alive. And because in Russia, it's not only a redemption for the people in Russia, for Jews all around the world. Till today, here Chabad exists all over the world. Judaism exists all because the previous Rebbe's self-sacrifice that he had. And so, thanks for joining. And
there's one more lesson.
Yes.
Remember, if we stay strong, Goyim will respect us.
Right.
That's the main point. Because back in Russia, not Jews, but Russians actually applied to free him. Outside Russia, only Mordechai Dubin stands strong. Other people were not Jews. Here in America, right, the President Hoover, oh bless memory, he's not Jewish. He did everything to bring Rebbe here.
That's right.
If we're strong, right? So, and one more time, now we back again when Jews are Jew haters, unfortunately, as you know, around us. And that's the problem. And now It's your job, rabbis, to teach us how to be strong and how to overcome all these problems. Right now, we have here 100 years after in America with the same situation, where Jew hates Jew.
It's nothing new. We've had it for 3,000 years already. Jews are making, unfortunately, make sure, but we have to stand strong in our determination, and we'll overcome it. We've always had it. It's nothing new. The fact today we have Jews who are having trouble for Jews is nothing new. You read any history, you'll see many all the way through Crusade, even in Spain acquisition. How many Jews were against Jews? Even the Nazis, though Jews who collaborated with, it's been always.